Adrian, thank you so much for seeing me. I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, nice to see you, Ryan.
First question I have for you, what was the last concert you attended?
It's been a while. Embarrassingly,
Yeah.
it might be Sarstock, which is going back a long time.
What?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I thought you were a big concert goer.
No, not at all.
What?
Yeah,
all right,
not at
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a while back.
That was a while.
These offices are beautiful. You're just moving in here now?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me how you came up with the name.
So we always want to start my own business. That was a really kind of important goal of mine professionally. So started the business about a year and 8 months ago. In trying to come up with a name, we lived in London for about 7 years, and I really wanted a connection to London.
Yep.
And I also very much wanted a business to business, but also a business to consumer brand.
Okay.
And so wanted to think of something creative, but also established. And we started with Mayfair, but there's a bunch of Mayfairs in the market.
Right.
We lived in Marylebone, which is a little neighborhood in London that we have a lot of affinity for.
That's a cool neighborhood.
But it's hard to pronounce,
Yes.
and it kind of sounded like a dog treat. And then my daughter was born in Fitzrovia, and we lived in Fitzrovia for a couple years, and thought that was a really good blend of things we were looking for.
Got it. I love the name. Well, let's go back to the beginning of your career. You started your career in investment banking in Toronto.
Yep.
Talk about your early career in finance and what that was like for you.
Yeah, so I really liked investments and the numbers, and always kind of wanted to get into private equity when I was in business school at Western.
Yep.
And thought investment banking was a really good four-way or kind of middle step to get into private equity. So I ended up doing mergers and acquisitions at Credit Suisse First Boston during the First Boston days. 2 years in their Toronto office, 2 years in London. And then made the jump over to Apollo's Real Estate Private Equity Group over in London.
And that was in 2008?
That was in 2006.
Okay.
I graduated in 04, 04 to 2008, and then 8 I made the jump just before 8 to Apollo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting time in the markets. Did you leave the investment banking business because of what was going on in the financial crisis, or was it just something you wanted to do?
No, I actually, about 4 or 5 months before the crisis actually hit in September of 2008 is when I joined Apollo.
Okay.
So thankfully, they raised a big op fund, our opportunistic fund, and it was early stages of deployment. So they were fully capitalized to take advantage of the downturn. So it was completely fortuitous.
Okay. Yeah. So talk about your time in London. What was it like living there versus Toronto?
I really enjoyed it. It was an amazing city. I thought the urban fabric was amazing, for lack of a better word. I thought the culture was incredible. The nightlife, the cuisine was amazing. Tough place to, I think, raise a family.
Yes.
Just from an expense standpoint.
So even a guy in finance making a very good salary, it still would be hard to live in London, a city like London.
For sure.
With a family of four, say?
For sure. Especially if you want, your kids go to certain schools, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It also doesn't have necessarily the green space or backyard space that I grew up with and certainly had an affinity for. But I really enjoyed the experience. I, was looking at New York and London when I was in my 20s, and very thankful I chose London over New York.
Because I know you like to travel quite a bit, so I'm sure that allowed you to, as a jump-off point, to go wherever you pleased on the weekends.
Yeah, that was definitely part of the appeal, for sure. So we would do, try to do a weekend a month and, go to a new destination. And so we ended up traveling, throughout Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East quite extensively.
You have a real affinity for the Middle East, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. What was your favorite city in the Middle East that you visited?
I would say Beirut was my favorite. We went back a couple times. That was a lot of fun. Just an amazing place.
Really?
And then a unique country was Iran. So we traveled extensively through Iran over a 3-week period.
Really?
About 11 years ago.
Wow. Did you have to get any sort of special visa, or?
We had to get a visa. Yeah, had to get a visa, and then we went there with a close buddy of mine. We went from Tehran down to Bandar Abbas, and basically drove from Bandar Abbas directly in the south of the country to north of Tehran, where we went skiing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did your friends speak the language?
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How'd you manage?
People were really friendly.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, a lot of English-speaking people that we came across, and they're really, really helpful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then, so you came back to Toronto in 2013, is that right?
2013.
Yeah.
That's right.
And what brought you back?
So we had our daughter in London. We're in between funds, so typically that's your logical break point when you're in private equity is when you're in between deploying a fund. As soon as you start deploying a fund, you really want to stick around for the performance fees and your allocation of those fees. So that was a logical breaking point, and we just wanted to get closer to home. Originally, going to London was to be there for a year, 2 years max, get some experience, come back home. We loved it so much we stayed 7. So that was the logical point to come back.
Was there any thought of moving to the countryside and commuting, or it was time to come home?
Time to come home.
Yeah.